business is very much about energy and understanding the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And what I see a lot of times with businesses is that women in particular often, they're going straight to the masculine structures and the masculine energy. They're trying to go for strategy and planning and logic and all of that piece of it, which is fantastic. There's a place for all of that. But when it comes to like either reinvigorating a business or feeling like your business is disconnected, it's probably not in the masculine energy space that the problem is. It's probably more in the feminine energy space, and really that space of imagination and curiosity and creativity, and really allowing yourself to dream and have a business that is beyond your wildest dreams. Right.
Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Create Your Life. I am your host, Simone Leah. So I just wanted to let you guys know that today's interview is actually an interview that I recorded about a year ago when I ran an online event called the Soul-Led Entrepreneurs Summit. It was a really, really, really wonderful event. I had some beautiful, amazing speakers talking about things like connecting with your intuition and how you can use that in your business, how to do Facebook advertising, how to do marketing as a soul-led entrepreneur, all of these cool things to do with business, entrepreneurship, and actually also spirituality and connecting within. And so these interviews were so wonderful that I really wanted to be able to share them with you now. So if when you're watching this, you see or hear the word soul-led entrepreneurs, this is still the Create Your Life show, but these interviews were just too good for me to keep to myself any longer. So I really, really, really hope you guys enjoy this interview, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon. Hello and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Simone Leah, and it is a pleasure to be here today. I just had the most amazing interview with Beth Larsen from Beth Larsen Coaching. It was really nice to talk to her and hear how being soul aligned means to her, and where do we even get started on that. And what I think was a really wonderful aspect to the interview and to Beth is that it's all about taking that time to really dream, really think about the things that I wonder what I could do. If there was no limitations, what could I do? Like, what would I do? What would I want to do? Like, how would I want to live? What would I want to build? Really taking that time to dream about what it is if you could do anything. No limitations, nothing holding you back. What would it be? Because at least then, once you understand those things that you would love to do, even if they feel like they're out of reach and they feel like they have limitations, at least you know what they are, and you can start to move forward and align with them, clearing things as needed along the way if you need to, or just putting things into place so that you can get there. But to really be soul aligned in your business, it's nice to have that understanding of what it is that you really, really want. So there was just really so much in this interview, and I don't want to keep going on about it. I want to give you guys a chance to actually listen to it. So I hope you enjoy this amazing interview with Beth, and have a wonderful, wonderful day and week and month and year. Hey guys, and welcome back to Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. I'm here with Beth Larsen from Beth Larsen's Coaching. Thank you so much for being here, Beth.
Thank you for having me. Thrilled to be here.
It's so exciting. I'm so just excited for the whole conversation, really, because I think that we have some similar underneath beliefs about moving forward. But let's just start with the first question of, what does being soul aligned in business mean to you?
Yeah, I love this question because the obvious answer is always, oh, follow your soul. But I think for me, one of the things that's really important is that when you're building a soul aligned business, that you're actually fulfilling your entelechy, right? Like, you're really looking to fulfill that part of your soul that is here to self-actualize and to grow. And the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have your business is an extension of you. So when you grow, your business grows. And when your business grows, it requires you to step up and grow even more if you choose to use your business that way. And for me, that's what a soul-aligned business is really all about, is having a business that actually requires that you step up and grow but that also, is growing as you grow, right?
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. So what about if you're someone who has had the same business or as an entrepreneur for say 20 years or 10 years, like a long time, maybe 5 years is a long time. And they've felt this call that they need to be doing something a little bit different or a minor shift, or yeah, they're just feeling like they're not actually completely aligned. How
Yeah.
would someone who's already got this established business channel or move through those sort of challenges?
Yeah. It's interesting because so for me, business is very much about energy and understanding the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And what I see a lot of times with businesses is that women in particular often, they're going straight to the masculine structures and the masculine energy. They're trying to go for strategy and planning and logic and all of that piece of it, which is fantastic. There's a place for all of that. But when it comes to like either reinvigorating a business or feeling like your business is disconnected, it's probably not in the masculine energy space that the problem is. It's probably more in the feminine energy space, and really that space of imagination and curiosity and creativity, and really allowing yourself to dream and have a business that is beyond your wildest dreams, right? And so, when what I find is generally, people are bogged down in all that heavy masculine energy, right? And they're just trying to fix things with strategy. And it's not where the creative process begins. So to reinvent or to reignite the energy, I'd say go back to step one. And that is, what's your dream for your business? And what are your dreams, to be perfectly honest? Because again, if we're talking soul aligned businesses, this should be about your dreams and having fulfilling that dream. So that would be my suggestion, is to start there first.
Yeah. What about if you have had that business, as we're saying, that established business, and then you do listen to this interview and you do go, okay, well, hang on, if I can bring my dreams into business, do you think that there's any point where there's too much dreaming? So say, for an example, your business is accounting coaching, like you're a coach, but you're an accountant. So you're all about finance and figures, but you've always had this dream that you want to be like creative and you want to create music and art and that sort of thing. Do you think that there's a way that you can incorporate both of those things into that one soul aligned business and just open up all of your dreams to that business?
Oh, that's a really great question. I think anything is possible as far as that goes. I think if you're talking accounting and you're talking more artistic, those are obviously very different things. But how are you creating a business that has creativity in it is kind of what I would look at. What everybody who's an accountant doesn't have to do accounting the same way. And how can you open up to, well, what if I did it completely differently, probably the opposite of every other accountant out there? What might that look like? Or how can I fulfill, this creative side of me and maybe bring in some of the accounting structure into my business, if that's something that's like a part of me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I think even just thinking outside of the box of, if you're super creative, you could even just target that business to the creatives. So you're still doing accounting, but you're only working with the creatives. And therefore in your own business, you could still show that creative side to show that you understand those creatives.
That is a perfect example. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I feel like it's even more just about when you're saying open up your dreams, it's more just about even just opening up to however that could even look for you.
Yeah, well, and I have to say that's exactly why I say start in the feminine energy space, because the imagination is the place where, we're taught to be realistic and reasonable and responsible and realistic, and especially when you're creating businesses, because it's your livelihood. But if you're not giving the space for the dream to expand, you're putting this container in that is confining just how much you can create. It's like, it's like the water bottle, right? If you start with the bottle, the masculine energy, you can only fit so much water in there, the feminine. But if you begin with the feminine energy and you've got this flow and you've got this like space that is so abundant in terms of like what's possible, well, then you can build the container around it. You can build the structure around it. So it's that ability to like really expand first. And I find that because it's been taught out of us so much, that is always the first place to go and see just how far can you expand? How crazy wild do you want to go with this business? And it's best if you can't believe it yet, because if you can't believe it, that tells me you're really going into your imagination. If it's something that you think is possible, well, then we need to look at, okay, well, why are you holding yourself back from something you already know is possible and that you already know you can do? But a lot of times I like to start first to go to the space of complete unbelievability, right? Because that really gets people thinking differently. And that's generally where the real juice is, right? The real magic begins. Excuse me.
No, I absolutely love that. That's amazing. So I think that, like you said, a lot of people are very much like system, and they might have a planning day once a month or something for their business. But on the whole, they are running their business from a masculine place. If someone is wanting to incorporate this, and like obviously timeframes are different for everyone, but on even a percentage level, say 10% or 50% or 80%, how much time do you think in, say, a week needs to be delegated to actually just getting creative and into that feminine flow and expanding?
Oh, wow. In terms of a percentage,
it's a hard question,
but I don't know that I can define it as a percentage. Because what I find is that the more actually that you put into that piece of it, you can hire people out to help you with the structure. You can hire people, so that you can stay in that creative space. Now, don't get me wrong. That does not mean you don't take action, because that's a lot of times people think, oh, we just stay in the feminine dreaming all day. No, you've got to definitely take action. But if you're taking action without doing the dreaming first, you're taking action from an energy that is like more rigid. It's more contracted. So, I mean, I guess getting back to the question that you just asked, what percentage? I would actually err on the side of like 80% creativity and 20% more the masculine, the structure, the boundaries, that type of thing within the business. But, I mean, I guess you could also look at it as like more 50-50. There's got to be a consistent flow back and forth between the two. Because, as you expand, then you create the structure of the container, and then you expand again and you create the container again. And so it just becomes this flow back and forth.
I actually really love that. And I think that a lot of people, they are in that masculine doing. And for me, I think that when I think about my life, the dream is just to create, to be in that creator mode. And like you said, outsource all of those structures, which we can do, so that we can do the whole reason why we're being entrepreneurs in the first place, which is to create, So I really love that's so high for you, because I think a lot of people, they're kind of like, all right, I'm going to have a planning day every month and it's going to be 3 hours, and that's Monday morning for 3 hours, and I'm going to plan the rest. And they kind of tap in a little bit, but they're not really tapping in with the creative. They're like just setting out their literal, structure, plan, and executing. There's no real, And so I love that for you, it's like, all right, if you can kind of start to align and balance in that way, so that you are okay, maybe 50% of the time checking up on the structures and what's going on in the business, but the other 50% you're creating what sets your actual soul on fire. Like, exactly. I literally love that. Like, you're someone who's like, that's where you want to get to. So how would people start to get there?
In terms of the balance, or
and even just within themselves, and the letting go of that thing of, oh, but I have to get this done. I have to get that. Oh, I can't outsource that yet, or.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that definitely has to start in terms of, okay, well, first off, if you haven't let yourself dream in a very long time, that's a process. It's like you got to turn on the juice again, right? You've got to be able to turn on the imagination again. And I have all kinds of processes that I take people through when it comes to getting the big juicy dream out of them, right? But there are clues to that IntelliKey, to that part of you that wants to self-actualize. And it's really, right, paying attention to what those clues are, paying attention to the things that light you up. I do in my business too. I do branding with archetypes in my business. And that's one of the places that I like to start with people as well, because when we know the energy of the archetype that you naturally are like, that's being called from you, that's resonating for you, I should say, then you can really use that to infuse into your business. So the energy of your business is super authentic. And the branding with archetypes program that I work with, we pick 2 archetypes. So it's a blend. So even if you're an alchemist, let's just say, you're not like every other alchemist out there. You're an alchemist and an artist, or an alchemist or a romantic, right? Or an alchemist and a jester. And it creates this like really beautiful energy about your business. And then you can infuse that into every part of your business. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally, definitely does. That's amazing. And I think with that awareness of where you're coming from, that I would think would help to give you more clarity around what you should be, not should be, but what you can kind of infuse into the business, if that makes sense.
Well, absolutely. The reason why I resonated so much with branding with archetypes is because it actually tells you the spiritual contract of that particular archetype. And it's like, it just hits it at the core. This is what's wanting to come through you right now. Because when you take the assessment, you're taking the assessment and it's telling you, this is what's wanting to be, to evolve through you. And so if you use this for your business, if you infuse this energy into your business, you're fulfilling that part of you that's wanting to come forward. And when you look at the archetypes, you can see the shadow side of it, and you can see, the light side of it. So it's like the shadows are the parts of your business that when you're doing too much of it, that's when you're getting stuck. And that's when your business gets stuck. But when you're in the light side of the archetype, it's like permission to do more of that. Yeah. Because when you do more of that, when you express more of that energy, you can't help but have great success in your business. Yeah. And like I said, when you work with a couple of different archetypes, it creates this really juicy blend.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's really good because it does help you to get that awareness of the shadow side of it. So you can kind of just have that awareness and kind of go, yep, this is not necessarily where I should be spending my time. Maybe this is what I should be outsourcing first.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you have any advice for someone who does want to really start connecting in with that dream and play like state?
Yeah. I think the number one thing that I start with people oftentimes is curiosity, because curiosity is, well, first off, it's the first thing that will shift you out of worry. So it's also going to shift you out of trying to figure it out, right? It gets you out of that logical left brain that's all trying to like figure out, whether it's figuring out what should I be doing with my life, right? Well, the answer is not there. It's like, I wonder if I could do anything, what that would be. And it's a different energy, right? It's the same energy, but it's the opposite end of the pole, if you will. So it's not, I've got to figure out what I got to do with my life. Instead, it's like, wow, expansive. If I could do anything, what would that be? And then if I were already doing that, what would my next dream be? What would I be looking for after that? So it's expanding the muscle, if you will, of dreaming, of imagination, and allowing yourself to really open to what is possible and what's what do I think right now is impossible, but I would still love it? You know, I think that that word love is so important, because when you ask somebody, what would you love? You're connecting immediately to the heart, and you're also connecting to one of the highest frequencies, right? And so when you ask somebody what they would love, and if they build a business around what they would love, well, then they just have to get themselves into that love frequency, and the success radiates from that. And it's not like there's any strategy in the world that's going to replace the frequency of love infused into a business. Does that make sense?
Yes, that totally 100% makes sense. I love that. I literally love that. So yeah, say someone has got this business that they haven't been infusing with love, but they do really love their business. Is it something that they can just look at things with that little bit more wonder and curiosity and start to really reignite that same business?
Yeah, I think definitely they can. And I also think that part of it, they have to look at their fears. So, you know, it's really important to pay attention to how we stop ourselves. And you know, that the fight, flight, freeze response, fight, flight, freeze, fawn actually response is how we stop ourselves. And so it's that fear that keeps us from growing. And it's also that fear that will keep you from expanding into that imagination and into that creative space, which is why I do love curiosity, because it helps you go there. But I also think it's important to like really work on the nervous system and help people like understand, how do you stop yourself? What's your pattern? When you start to like really go for something that you would absolutely love, how do you stop yourself? Is it fight response? Is it flight? Is it fear, freeze? Is it fawn? What does it look like for you, so that we can know and be prepared for it? Because it's going to happen every time you expand, every time you grow. Yeah, and so I find starting with that and helping people through that helps with the expansiveness of the imagination and the creativity.
I literally love that. And I think that is something where we also need to talk on. That doesn't need to be a hard or scary process, because
right.
you might be saying to yourself, I don't even remember the last time that I went for something. Like, I don't even remember that. You know, it might have been at 6 years old and you were like going to do something. I don't know, maybe you're in the, I don't know, choir or a school play or something, and something happened and then that just stopped you out and you've never even gone for it since then. And so you might be like, the last time I went for something was 6 years old. I don't want to bring that up, you know, but it's not actually, it doesn't have to be a really scary, confronting process. It just has to be going in and acknowledging it and being aware of what actually happened and why you've been stopped from now. Like, are you able to speak a little bit about that even?
Yeah, well, and I think making fear your friend, because fear is there for a reason. You know, it's there to protect us. But when you can see things from a bigger perspective, when you can see things, you know, from a more metacognitive state, you can see what's really going on. So the fear doesn't have to stop you. And in reality, if you truly believe, and I do, and I infuse this into everybody I meet, that everything does happen for us, right? So if fear is there, it's triggering something, and that trigger is there for a reason. It's something there that can be alchemized, that can be transmuted, that can be turned into fuel to ignite your business. And in the process, you get to grow through it because you're no longer being stopped by the fear. Yeah. And so, you know, for me, it's turning fear into a friend. It's there for a reason. It has a purpose. Let's not resist it. Let's not try and avoid it, because it has meaning, and there's gold within that. So that's my approach with it.
So what would you think, like, there's obviously that saying that the thing you're most afraid of is the thing you should be doing. So say someone is setting up this beautiful soul aligned business and they're like, there is no way I can get on stage and public speak. I can't do it. I want to do it, it's like, it could work in my brand. It's not something that I'm, but I can't. Like, what do you think of when someone's actually got a fear? Do they walk into that?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We don't avoid it. Let me just say that. So I think the first thing I always ask people to tell me is, well, first off, tell me the desire. What would you love? Right? Start with love. What would you really love? Once you know what the desire is. So in that case, if it might be, I would love to be able to be on stage and have this amazing presentation that just keeps everybody on the edge of their seat and fascinated. And I would love for people to be coming up to me afterwards and like, how can we work together? Right? So that's the desire. So then I have them answer 4 questions. Tell me why you don't have that already. Tell me why it's not possible. Tell me why it's possible, but it's going to be a lot of hard work, or tell me why it's possible, but it's going to take a long time. And those 4 questions will help you pull up everything that's running in the subconscious from either a to me consciousness, right? A victim consciousness, or a by me consciousness, where everything, I can do this, but I have to do it, and it's going to be hard work, right? So for all the people, for all the type A personalities out there who are like hustling hard, it helps pull up all those beliefs that are running. And once you know the beliefs, now you can test them, right? Are they true? How do you know they're true? Doing the work with it, and then creating the new beliefs. What do you choose to believe? What do you want to believe? And more importantly, what do you want to believe, but what do you choose to believe? And that's a process too. It's like choosing what you have absolutely no evidence for on the outside world, but choosing it because it's actually the truth. Yeah. It's the real truth. It's the truth you were born with, that, you've just been buying into the lie for however many years of your life. So now we got to come back to the truth. Once you start grounding people into their truth, the real truth, the spiritual truth, then they're able to do anything. Yeah. The fear is no longer going to hold them back, right? They can see that it's just a belief system.
And I think it's also like, I feel for me, the more aligned I've got within my soul, the more it kind of feels like the business is just magically happening. You're not really doing anything. So I think that if there is something that's coming up that does seem to be like you're pushing or you're hustling, then potentially you kind of also need to look at the energy around that, because when you are in full alignment and flow, it does just flow. Like what do you think in terms of that?
Yeah, I think it really depends on if the person is acting from fear, right? Or if it really is an out of alignment thing. So generally, again, if you go through and you say, well, what would you love? Tell me what you would love. Like that starts the process, because again, we can see, are they even going for things that they would really love in the first place? If not, that's a big clue that they're not doing something soul aligned. If there's nothing that they can say that they would love in relationship to that. Yeah. So when we start there, and then once we've identified that, if they can answer the 4 questions, then we can really deal with it if it's fear. Yeah. Right. So I think that's a really great point. You've got to be able to distinguish between the two, because I find, here we go with percents again. I don't know, 80% of the time, yeah, it's fear that's just stopping us, right? Or we're convincing ourselves, oh, it's not soul aligned. Well, actually, maybe it's exactly soul aligned, and this is exactly what you're being called to do, to self-actualize, to steward that entelechy forward. Yeah. And again, it's really important to be able to distinguish between the two, because too many people live a very small life. They live the contained life, right? That they're shoving stuff into, instead of allowing themselves to really expand.
Yeah. And if you can shine the light on those little things that are those little blockers, then you can just open them up and keep expanding, really.
Exactly.
I think that's, yeah. So how do you manage to connect within, both inside and outside of business?
Yeah. I have to say that's a great question, because I will say that I spent many years disconnected. Sorry, my light's a little weird.
No.
Very much like glowing here in this video. I spent many years disconnected. I just didn't see, I was very much in the by me consciousness, right? I was the type A person who was out there doing. And I spent 20 years of my career in a corporate role. And so for me, that was definitely something I had to come back to. I had to build my spiritual muscle because it was flabby. So I think some of the practices that I use, well, obviously meditation. I mean, that is an important practice every single day to be able to quiet what's in the mind, excuse me, so you can really listen in the body. But that's the other piece of it, is really being able to reconnect into the body and understand, you know, what is my body's wisdom telling me? It will tell me what I'm drawn towards. Like, I'm literally pulled towards it, and it's going to tell me what I'm not. And so spending time getting out of my head, getting into the body, whether that's through meditation, whether that's grounding, you know, grounding practices, excuse me. I do a practice called Positions of Empowerment, which is connecting. So if you've got like a topic or a person, or it could be, you know, it could be a post that I want to write. It's putting the topic in the center and then moving from position to position to connect in to see what that topic needs to know. So when I say moving from position to position, I mean, you know, the position of me, the position of the topic, the position of the observer who's observing both, and the position of spirit. And what, you know, what needs to be heard, and then being able to kind of put them all together to infuse. And for me, that part of spirit is the part that's like, that's the part where all the magic is. Yeah. Right? It's where the answers that I'm trying to figure out in my head are completely the opposite usually, right? And spirit has the guidance. I'm also a big fan of asking for guidance. So, you know, actually asking for it literally, and for in a way that I can't miss the message. I every single week when I'm doing my planning for the week, I pick a guidance card. So I'm a big fan of oracle cards. I love those. You know, if you're more religious, you can use scripture, Bible, whatever, but asking, what message do I need to hear this week? Or what's my next aligned step? Those are usually my two questions that I ask. And for me, what I found is that when I first started that practice, I would be so in awe of the message and how accurate it was. But then there was a moment where I realized, well, I wasn't actually doing anything with the message. It's like I wasn't integrating it. So that's become a big part of the practice along the way too, is, okay, now you just heard this message. What does it mean to you? And how are you going to actually integrate it this week? You know, if the message is to stay still, well, then you stay still. But if the message is telling you, you know, this is the time, or this is, you know, move in spite of your fear, or whatever the message is, I need to listen to it and actually take the action from that message. So.
You know, I actually really love that. And I think that there's a lot of people who probably don't realize, and I'm hopeful that this will help people to understand that they can, but they can just ask questions. Being soul aligned doesn't mean you're all alone on an island. It means you're aligned with your soul. So if there is a question, you can literally just ask for a message, you know, flick to a page in a book and find whatever stands out to you, or open an oracle card, or, you know, you can have fun with it and be like, universe, are you actually listening today? If you're listening, I'd like to see a butterfly, or, you know, and just ask questions and have fun. And I feel like, people aren't necessarily aware that they can.
Yeah, or they don't trust, right? And that's the piece, that it's like trust that the message is for you, trust that a message will come, trust. And that's part of the process, right, is building that trust. Because when you build that trust, you build that faith, well, then you've got the faith for anything.
Yeah.
right? Then, and fear can't live in the space of faith. So when you're building that trust and you start to realize, I am not in this alone. Like, and in fact, I have I have direct connection to source. You know, whenever I need answers, whenever I need support, I just need to, you know, do direct dial and get on the line and connect. And it's such a relief. And that's the place where things flow. Yeah. Right? That's where you stop trying to do everything on your own in that masculine energy.
Yeah. And I think that when you can start to really connect in with your soul and be aligned, you can just make most, if not all, of your business decisions from there. You can literally just sit with the question and be like, should I outsource this aspect of my business? And you'll get the answer when you're, I guess, attuned and trusting of what you receive.
Yeah. Well, and there again, you just said it, trusting. Like you've got to trust those messages, because initially those messages are probably going to be the opposite of what you think. Right. And that's where the magic really does happen, is when you start trusting and you stop listening to this up here, because that up here is, you know, it's so limited. Source and spirit has infinite knowledge, infinite wisdom, infinite possibilities available to you. So if you're going to just go up here, you're taking everything and you're shoving it into the water bottle instead of letting things expand and letting things flow. Yeah. So it's that trust piece, like you just said. It's like you got to trust and you've got to take the action, even if what's going on in your head is telling you the opposite. Yeah.
It doesn't have to make sense.
No, it rarely will, right? It's like, it doesn't, who is it? Steve Jobs, who said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And I find that so much to be true, which is why I don't really focus so much on strategy anymore, because, and let me just say, I come from a very strategy driven background. 20 years in corporate. It's like, it was all strategy, planning, logic, making things happen. Yeah. So this was a very different way of doing things when I started learning this process. And I would never go back to it the old way. I just wouldn't, because this is so much more, it's more aligned, it's more fulfilling, it's just easier, right? It's just easier. The business gets to flow.
I feel like when you can really connect in with that part of yourself, you lose that feeling of confinement and you expand, and everything and every part of the business and your life as well. But you walk towards things that feel expansive. You just go, that feels restrictive. I'm not going over there. I want to go towards the expansion. And when you're really connected into that and you're just coming from that place of, this feels expansive, let's do it. Like everything just changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you build, the more you build the muscle, the easier it gets to walk towards the scary things.
Yeah.
Right. The easier it gets to move towards the fear. You know, I'm not going to say it's easy at the beginning. It's not, but the more you practice it, it is a muscle like everything else. And the more you build it, you know, the more muscle memory is there and the stronger the muscle is. So it just becomes that much easier to do. So.
Yeah. I am getting aware of the time, but I'm going to ask you another quick question before we go into the top 3 tips. If someone did want to practice just really using that muscle, is there a way that they could do that daily, but without it taking a lot of time and a lot of pressure and a lot of stress? Is there a way to kind of practice using that muscle in a really relaxed way?
Do you mean the muscle of asking for guidance? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, and just listening in and connecting up.
Yeah, I mean, you could pull a card every single day. That I did that for a long time while I was learning more about it. Now I do that less because I just trust more and the messages are actually coming through without needing to do that. I pick a card every week just because I love the practice and I love the ritual of it. And I'm always amazed at just how spot on the messages are. But I would suggest that to somebody, you know, starting right away, is pick a card every day, or pull a book off the shelf, or, again, if you're more religious, scripture or the Bible, use that and just point to a random, we know it's not random, but a random phrase or saying or, verse, whatever it is, and just trust that message is for you. If you knew that message was for you, what would the message be? And what would you do today with that message? And again, like I said, sometimes doing is sitting, but more often than not, there's an action actually that comes out of it more.
I literally love that, because what you've mentioned is something fun. Yeah. You can literally just have fun with it and be like, today I'm going to open this book. Tomorrow I'm going to open my cards. And you can literally go into that one daily practice with childlike wonder of, oh my goodness, what message am I going to get today? I'm super excited. I can't wait. Or what colored card, like what's going to be on the picture of the card I pull today? Or, like, I love that what you've said is something really fun to connect in with,
Exactly.
That's amazing. Thank you. I will ask, do you have 3 top tips for someone who is wanting to just really become soul aligned in their business and start to move forward in their business in that direction?
Yeah. I would start with the what would you love, right? Like, start with that exercise of what would you love? Because when you anchor from there, like, everything else just flows from that, right? With that energy, that frequency, and that really starts to get you out of not what's possible, but what would you love, right? So starting with that, and then having a why that's bigger than you, right? So we all know, was it Simon Sinek, start with why. Know what your why is. Why are you doing this? Why do you want this? In high performance, we coach on 3 different whys: an intrinsic why, an extrinsic why, and an external why. And the intrinsic why is that why that's deeply personal to you. It's the why would you love it for no other reason than you would love it, right? For you. An extrinsic why is going to be that why that's bigger than you. So the purpose of having an extrinsic why is so that there's something pulling you forward when fear kicks in. And, we're prone to giving up on ourselves. But when somebody outside of us is counting on us, or, whether it's a charity, or, it's like if somebody has a health goal and their intrinsic goal might be to get healthy, but their extrinsic why might be to be able to walk their daughter down the aisle, right? It's like there's something bigger that's going to keep pulling them forward when the cake shows up and they're about ready to down the cake. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's intrinsic and extrinsic. The external whys are the ones that you got to go through and make sure you don't have those in there, because those are not soul aligned businesses. External whys are the whys that are the peer pressure whys. They're the whys that you think you should be doing. They're the whys that other people are putting on you. Societal pressure, or a partner or something like that that's making you think that you should be doing this. Those are the whys that need to go. So intrinsic why, the extrinsic why bigger than you, and then making sure that your external whys are not there, right? And then I would say that the third thing would be to really welcome the triggers, right? And use those for growth, because they're always happening for you. That trigger is coming up telling you this is what needs to get healed. This is like the next step towards your expansion. So why is it triggering you, so that you can actually alchemize it? Yeah.
No, I love all 3 of those. They're amazing. Thank you.
Sure.
And would you think that, would you happen to have a recommended resource that you think that would really benefit soul aligned business owners, something that would really work?
Well, I mentioned this earlier, and I will say branding with archetypes, definitely. I find that so powerful. I know it was a game changer for me, definitely, because when I learned, so my blend is alchemist artist. So The Alchemist is all about transformation and all about magic and all about alchemizing, turning lead into gold. And it's all about dreams and imagination. So that's me. And then The Artist is all about honoring self-expression and uniqueness. And so for me, that was like a game changer when I started actually owning that part of me and infusing that into my business. It's like, it was magic. It was, of course, magic because I'm an alchemist, but it was like literally, the magnet turned on.
Yeah.
And people just started coming out of the woodwork, opportunities, people, clients, all of it, all because I wasn't suppressing. I wasn't trying to be a different kind of energy in my business. So I highly recommend that. I do offer the quiz, for people. So you can take the assessment, the quiz, and find out what your archetypes are.
Amazing.
And it's a game changer, I think.
That was going to be my next question, is how would someone get started with that? But if they can just do your quiz, are you able to run us through where people can find you?
Yeah, so my website is www.bethlarsencoaching.com. That's LARSEN. And I don't actually have the quiz on my website, but you can find me on there, and I'm more than happy to connect with anyone and give them the quiz, send them the quiz. And then if they want to explore further, of course we can talk. But I think even if they just know what their archetypes are, that alone is going to shift things for them.
Amazing. And then also, are you on social media? Can they find you on Instagram? Yep. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So Beth Larsen Coach on Instagram and Facebook both. So.
Yay. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Beth. It has just been the most wonderful conversation. I've literally loved it.
Awesome. Well, it was my pleasure. And I so enjoyed speaking with you as well. And I love the message and the mission that you're putting out into the world, because having a soul aligned business is all the difference. You do not have to go through life, doing a job that's not lighting you up. And you get to have a business that not only is soul aligned, but is successful because it's soul aligned.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled with the message that you're sending out there.
Thank you. And I really, really think that there's so much in what you've said today that can just literally help so many people. And all of the people watching this are just going to get so much value from just listening to you and learning from you. So we really, all of us really appreciate your time and the fact that you're here. So thank you so much.
Awesome. My pleasure.
Thank you.